Hey, all viewers and viewesses, my name is General Red Strategist. Welcome back to So You're Being Hunted. This is something like episode 282 now, I think. Should have checked the episode numbers actually before I started this recording session. But of course, you remember in the last episode we did the old challenge, the memory lane one, which was basically the robot slaying challenge, except in half an hour. So we did that. That was quite fun and enjoyable. Now, of course, we just got another little podcast-style episode, just to fill up some time. It's a Friday evening as when I record this, so I just needed to do basically a quick... basically just do a quick episode, just like I say, to act as a bit of filler, as I do, you know, from time to time. That's quite often the case, in fact, when I record these things. I just find myself in an evening needing to record another episode of Sir, just so, you know, the schedule keeps rolling over just nicely. But it's good stuff. So it's Friday the 14th of February as we record this, so it's technically Valentine's Day, but, you know, by the time this video goes out, it'll be way past then. So we're not going to talk about Valentine's Day, because that'll be irrelevant to the time when this video actually goes out. So instead, in fact, actually there is something, you know, a topic of conversation which I had in mind. But, you know, first before that, I hope you guys out there, of course, as usual, are all doing fine. Looking forward to another little chat here. I hope you enjoyed the previous challenge as well. And I hope you're still enjoying the Sir You're Being Hunted series, which, you know, you still are pretty much. But, you know, something actually which has been on my mind fairly recently. So I think it was yesterday, so 13th of February, technically, not today. But, you know, I was doing a bit of housework around my flat, you know, pottering around as you do, and sometimes, you know, when I do that, I always have the television on in the background, just for company, you know, whatever programme might be on, even if it is just, well, not, I was about to say even if it is just trashy daytime TV, but having said that, I don't tend to put it on to trashy shows. Usually if I put it on, you know, I'll put it on to shows like Bargain Hunt, Dickinson's Real Deal, stuff like that. You know, this is my inner old person sort of coming out a bit here. But the other day so the other day, I say the other day, a couple of days ago, there was actually a show on Channel 5, which was about HMS Duncan in the Royal Navy, which is very interesting. So I'd watched that one evening, and then I just, you know, turned the TV on, left it on Channel 5. And so then, I think it was the next day when I came on and I was doing a bit of housework, and I was, you know, ironing some washing, stuff like that. Because the TV was tuned into Channel 5, it came up and it was displaying a TV show from the States, which I've not seen in fucking years. And the TV show in question was Friends, everybody. You know the one I'm talking about, the old classic American sitcom with... how many people can I actually name who starred in that? So it was Matt LeBlanc, playing Joey Tribbiati. Tribbiati? Was that his character's name? Can't quite remember. Obviously David Schwimmer, who was playing Ross, Courtney Cox, who was What's-Her-Face, Monica, Jennifer Aniston, of course, who was Rachel, what's she called? Lisa Kudrow was playing Phoebe. And there's the guy who plays Chandler, whose name I can never actually remember. But, you know, Friends was such a kind of funny old kind of TV show, quite iconic of the 90s. And I can remember back in the day, back in my younger days, when... you know, I was still a kid, very much, back in the 90s. And on a kind of Friday evening, whenever, you know, in my sort of family's house, back in the evening on a Friday, you know, Friends would always be on at 9 o'clock, and you'd watch that. And, I don't know, I remember Friends being kind of decently funny. At least that's how I remember it. The episode I tuned into yesterday felt... I don't know. It was one of those things where sometimes you remember things as being funny, but then when you re-watch them, you think to yourself, was this actually really that funny when it came out? And I must say, I don't know, maybe I just got one of the weaker episodes that day when I tuned in. But yeah, the episode in question, I don't know. I kind of looked at it and thought, okay, I don't know, some of this humour feels a bit weak, like flipping Phoebe singing about a stinky cat or something like that. It was weird. I don't know. But yes, it's one of those things. I imagine there's a lot of stuff out there people enjoy, but when they watch it again, they think to themselves, "Wow, did I seriously ever find this funny?" But then again, you know, back in the day you were younger, and obviously people's tastes and humour change as they get older and older and all that. And no doubt that is the case with me. But of course, you know, no doubt there's plenty of people out there who still find Friends funny. But yeah, like I say, Friends, not a TV show I've seen for a very, very long time, sitcom rather. But good lord. But like I say, I always remember when I was a kid, it would be on at 9 o'clock on Friday evenings on whatever channel it was on, like Channel 4 or whatever. And then, I seem to recall, after you'd watched Friends, it would always be Frasier. Now, Frasier is a sitcom which, as a kid, I never watched, but as an adult, I actually picked it up once and started actually watching it, and I actually do find Frasier kind of funny. Granted, like any show, there are episodes where the humour can be a bit weak, but I don't know, my experience of Frasier is that those episodes tend to be very few and far between, and actually most of the episodes I did actually find quite funny. I always thought the funniest Frasier episodes were the kind of farcical ones, where the humour is derived from Frasier doing stupid shit, misunderstanding things that other people are doing, and then hilarity ensues as he tries to interfere in his usual kind of bumbling way. But yeah, Frasier, I don't know, Frasier, I must say, of the very few American sitcoms that I've ever watched, Frasier probably is my favourite. I quite like it, you know, Frasier Crane and all that, because he's such a snob and whatever else have you. But you know, it's just got so many, well, I thought personally it's just got some very interesting characters to it. Because obviously you have old Frasier boy himself, the radio, you know, psychiatrist turned, you know, radio host. And then, you know, you have his brother, Niles, who's a complete snob. You have his sort of grumpy ex-police officer father, Marty, who's basically the fucking opposite of what he is, which is, you know, fantastic recipe for comedy. You have Marty's carer, Daphne, from England, who, you know, I must say, what was the name of the actress who played Daphne? Daphne Moon. Was it Jane something? I'm pretty sure her name was Jane something, but she played a fantastic part. She did. I can remember the name of the actress who played Frasier's radio show producer, Roz. The actress who played her, that was Peri Gilpin, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, I can remember her quite well. But like I say, some good characters in there. Oh man, that kind of makes me want to actually pick up all the different series of Frasier again and start watching them once more. You know, because there's about 11 series of Frasier. And so, you know, it went on for quite a while. I think it first started in sort of the mid-90s. Was that when it started? Or no? Or did it start in the very late 80s and it went through till the early 2000s? I can't quite remember. It's been a very, very long time. Have I been to that boat before? I think I have, yes. Oh man, yeah. But the thing is, you know, like I say, I think there's at least 11 seasons of Frasier, that's what I remember. And obviously they have quite a few episodes in each one, so there's plenty of material there. So that's the thing, back when I was living up north, back in the day, my old folks actually had, I think, pretty much every series of Frasier on DVD, so sometimes I'd borrow it off them and watch elements of it. But yeah, obviously that's, you know, all those DVDs are still back up north, so unfortunately, if I wanted to watch more, I'd probably have to get myself a copy or two. Yes. But speaking of, you know, American sitcoms, things like that, one that I've heard is supposed to actually be quite funny, but which I've never watched, is Seinfeld. Maybe I should look into that, I don't know. I can sort of picture the characters, or at least some of the characters from Seinfeld, but I couldn't put names to them, because obviously I don't know much about the TV show. I don't know, maybe I should look into that, who knows. Ooh, lordy. But you know, when I kind of saw that episode of Friends, though, just to go back to that the other day on the TV on Channel 5, I don't know why, but it made me feel kind of sad as I was watching it. Not because of the whole thing about the TV show not being quite as funny as I remember it, because obviously that was just the one episode, and it, like I say, it could have just been that maybe I just tuned in when a particularly weak episode was being broadcast or something, but it made me feel kind of sad because, of course, you know, it made me think of my younger days back in the 90s. I say younger days, I'm not old. Freaking late 20s, that's roughly where my age is right now. So, you know, back in my kind of childhood days in the 90s, and like I say, it just made me kind of sad, because it felt kind of like I was looking back into a world that, you know, is now gone. You're not going to get that kind of thing back. Because I never thought I'd say this about the 90s, but, you know, whatever. But I think what was kind of particularly interesting, though, is that obviously, because Friends was set in New York, they have quite a lot of kind of just, between scenes, they have a lot of, what would you call them, like, just kind of screens between scenes. What would you? What's I don't know what the technical term is for that. You probably all know what I'm talking about, but I just don't know the term for it. But you know, they have a lot of shots of New York, of the skyline, things like that. And of course, because this was back in the 90s, the Twin Towers are still there, and that just made me kind of stop and really think. You know, so much water has passed under the bridge since then. Because on a kind of, you know, this is a bit of a deep and perhaps kind of heavy topic here, but I always feel like every kind of major period in history sort of has a moment at the very end where a moment which people kind of look back on and think, you know, that's the moment when that period really kind of came to an end, even though obviously in reality it's not that kind of straightforward. Periods of history don't just end abruptly, they usually evolve and shift into the next one. But there's always that kind of iconic moment that people sort of connect with the end of a particular moment in time. You know, so for example, like, you had the Cold War for a long while, and usually a lot of people point to the fall of the Berlin Wall as the kind of moment at which the Cold War really started to come to an end. Because of course, the fall of the Berlin Wall was so iconic when it happened. It was the collapse of that old, very authoritarian Soviet communist regime, and it was the dawn of something new. And of course, you know, at that time, as you're going into the early 90s, you had that sort of spirit of optimism. You know, President Bush Sr. saying, you know, we're on the cusp of a new world order, it's going to be free, democratic, it's going to be lovely, and all this. And of course, the 1990s, I think, was that kind of era of optimism for certain people. Now, granted, of course, you know, I'm not saying it was rosy for everybody. In fact, I would say it was probably only rosy if you were from certain groups in society. And, you know, if you were from certain countries or whatever. But among those countries, there was that spirit of optimism. And so, like I say, yeah, that's like an iconic moment in history that kind of ended a distinct period. But looking back over the 90s, I think, I don't know about you guys out there watching this, but I think the period at which I'd say that sort of fairly optimistic 90s worldview kind of came to an end was probably with 9/11, I have to say. Yeah, it's just that shot of the Twin Towers when I was watching, a real sense of, I have to say, kind of like nostalgia, back for the days of the 90s, when I was still a kid, still young, and, you know, didn't have all the stresses of adulthood and all that. Kind of sad, but, you know, everyone grows up and all that, what can you do? At the end of the day, that's not to say that the times we live in right now are not exciting. They sure are, in fact, you know. Despite all the problems in the world, there's still a lot of reason to be optimistic, I must say. That's the thing, you know. I often find that media today tends to focus on the bad news stories, you know, because those are the things that are newsworthy. Those are the things that generate the clicks and all that. So that's inevitably what they focus upon. But they kind of, you know, they never really focus on the good stuff, the more optimistic stuff. Stories of where humanity actually does incredible things. And so that's what I, you know, tend to do sometimes. I like to peruse, obviously, news articles every day or so, just to kind of keep up to date with what's going on in the world. But I also like to, you know, try and temper some of that more depressing material with some more uplifting stories, whether that's taken from, you know, for example, like science, the realm of science, because there are some major kind of scientific discoveries and projects currently on at the moment, you know, whether you're talking about space research, whether you're talking about medicinal research, whatever it is, you know, there's uplifting stuff, and you have to look at these things as well as the usual stuff that you see on pretty much any media site or whatever, because otherwise, you know, you'll get into that mindset of the world is depressing and it's just full of bad stuff and we've no reason to be happy about anything. But actually, you know what, despite everything that's going on in the world, I think there is still a lot of cause to be optimistic, especially as we move into the future. Okay, right, you know what, that's enough about that. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier, Frasier, need to pick up the DVDs on that sometime, watch them again. Then again, I got a lot of stuff I need to watch, because of course, the thing is, I have some anime at the moment, anime DVDs that I want to get through. I'm watching, what's it called? What was the show called? Jesus, I've been watching it at the moment, I've already forgotten the title of it. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. I've been watching that at the moment, which is rather entertaining. It's a isekai series, you know, pretty much what you'd expect. from that. Yeah, maybe I'll talk about more about that in another episode, because that's another kind of topic of conversation. But I've got other ones as well I want to look at, like No Game, No Life. I've got that on DVD. That needs watching at some point, so I'll probably get around to that. I've got a load of One Piece episodes I need to get through. So yeah, I think the Frasier stuff, that's just going to have to be something that gets added to the queue. Yes, indeed. Oh man, that reminds me actually, Propagandist, my second channel where I do anime-related content, especially girls and panzer stuff. That seems to be the thing that my channel is becoming sort of known for, Propagandist. I need to do more content on there, and I also need to look a bit more into Girls and Panzer Das Finale, because, there were updates on that coming out not too long ago, but I've not been keeping up to date with them. So maybe I need to just check those, because you never know, I might be able to get some Propagandist videos on it. Problem is, Propagandist, I don't upload videos on there anywhere near as frequently as I would like to, because I just find that with my job and all that, I'm just too busy. So yeah, videos on that tend to be very sporadic, which is a shame, but what can you do, eh? Yes. Okay. I'll tell you what, I've been recording there for over 10 minutes, so I think that'll probably do for a podcast-style episode. So, yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Just a short, sweet, So You're Being Hunted episode. So I hope you all enjoyed that then, everybody. Just a little chin wag about various things. Starting off with something quite light-hearted, Friends, Frasier and all that, and then suddenly going into something a lot deeper before going to something a lot lighter again. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below and all that. But in the meantime, of course, if you're not doing so already, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links down below as always, along with a link to the aforementioned Propagandist channel. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, comment as said, subscribe, all that jazz, you know the drill by now. But in the meantime, thank you everybody, and goodbye all. Oh my god, he's actually here.
Is this better, Megan?
What is this?
He's back. Whoa, cameo. Cameo in the sequel.
Yeah.
Ah, goody. What hell are you doing? Do not give me that shit, Megan. You are in danger, you big fuck nugget.
Wow.
God damn it, God. Get out of my dreams. Let's go, but God damn it, get out of my dreams.
Yeah, you're doing Irwin there.
Yeah.
So was that literally just a cameo? Just him?
Yeah, that was completely unnecessary. You okay with that, Jane?
Because that's kind of what he was like in the last game. He just crops up all the time.
Yeah.
Like in the hot springs, nice. He's just there.
Well done.
Uniform.
Yeah.
Did you read that?
I did.
Yeah,
looking over, I noticed Yunji isn't there. Only then do I notice splashing in the ocean. Looks like Yunji's having some fun swimming.